So welcome to another in-person edition of eCommerce Australia. So pumped to have our next guest join us in person here in the South Melbourne studio. I've long been a fan of his marketplace that he's built. I'm a current customer of Bluethumb, having purchased a Louis Jova painting back a couple of years ago. A brilliant process, love the artwork. I need to invest into another one soon, mate. I've even checked out the office and the gallery, which was in Collingwood, you said, wasn't it? Yeah, since moved to Richmond. A big e-commerce podcast welcome to George Hartley, co-founder of Bluethumb.
Thanks a lot. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, mate, great to have you in studio. As I said, I only do the in studio for very VIP guests. So, when I was really excited when I got the opportunity that your name come across to interview, because as I said, I loved it, watched it. I'm always on Bluethumb, just kind of going, what can I afford? What can I, what sort of artwork can go here? And I've only made the one purchase as well, so I'll come back and be a repeat customer at some point. But the Louis Jova ink sort of artwork is in the prime position in my place, so I love it.
Fantastic. Good to hear you're a customer. And Louis actually has just got a work in the new Louvre, I think, that's appearing in the Middle East. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, he's sort of hit. I think they have an emerging section, and yeah, he's got a piece in there. Apparently, I read. So
fantastic.
Yeah, you've got a collectible one there.
There you go. Oh, that's bloody exciting. Well, maybe go and check out what it's worth. But no, he's done some great stuff, and yeah, he kind of I guess started me on that Bluethumb. I think I was looking for his name actually, and then Bluethumb come up. So nice. Credit to your Google Ads strategy or your SEO strategy. Mate, we'll give you some quick questions. A favourite holiday destination?
That'd be my childhood holiday destination, Kangaroo Island.
Oh, nice. Yeah. You an SA boy, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in Adelaide, and and my folks have a beach house on Kangaroo Island, and we'd spend summer there, and it's a magical place. Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, good.
They have a racetrack there, a horse racetrack.
They do. Yeah, they got a dusty kind of horse racetrack in the middle.
Yeah.
I went to the races once there. It's hilarious. It's great fun.
Yeah. I never got there. I used to ride for professionally, but I lived in Adelaide for 5 years in the Barossa.
Oh, nice.
Angaston, there's a big horse stud farm there.
Yeah.
Didn't get to KI myself. Okay. But I've heard good things. There's a few good jockeys from KI as well. I think Dwayne Dunn and Bryony and all that from KI. So nice. Sort of know that area well. What would a perfect weekend include? You mentioned that you got a couple of young ones now, so I'm not sure whether that's just a distant memory, but if you had to design the perfect weekend, what would it look like?
Yeah, taking into account, my growing young family, a perfect weekend would start with 8 hours sleep.
All right.
So, an uninterrupted 8 hours sleep. Then, family time. I do like hanging out at the park and doing bits and pieces with the fam.
Yep.
And probably just going out to dinner with my partner.
Nice.
Again, because 3-year-old and a 7-month-old, you don't get to do those kind of bits and pieces as much. So probably pretty quiet.
Yeah, nice.
Sleep-oriented family weekend.
Yeah. Sometimes I do take for granted that I can just sleep no problems for 8 hours, I guess. Have you got a favourite sort of restaurant in Melbourne then? If you sort of go out, is there a notable kind of top performer?
Look, the ones I went to probably all closed by now. I live Bayside, so I like Stoke House.
Oh yeah,
there in St Kilda. Yeah, it's just beautiful spot and nice food. So that pops up as one of my faves. Yeah. Yeah.
Good location.
Yeah.
Last book read? Are you a reader?
Yeah. I love reading. Actually, I've just finished No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy.
Okay.
Which is that epic kind of. It turned into a great movie by the Coen brothers, but that's fiction. My sister's a novelist, and her favourite book is I think All the Pretty Horses by him. So I read The Rose, so I thought, oh shit, I better read. It's meant to be a modern classic. Yeah, it's great. It's harrowing, kind of interesting story, but having watched the movie first, the actual movie takes most of it dialogue as the script. So
really?
I felt like it's kind of it's cool. Yeah. And the one before that was non-fiction, which was about Cornelius Vanderbilt. I think it's called Tycoon or First Tycoon.
Okay.
He was kind of a shipping then train magnate, and he was, you know, there when New York was becoming New York really early, and it's an incredible book, like fairly heavy going and thick, like a long read, but you know, it's just absolutely blows your mind that these guys kind of came up with modern capitalism, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have the, you know, a business as a separate standalone entity didn't really exist, right?
Yeah.
And there was a big, you know, should we be monopolists? Should we be kind of government, or should we have private enterprise? And it was a big fight to work out what would work. And you know, capitalism won. And then he was, you know, I don't know, he was constantly getting in punch-ons as a sea captain. He kind of fought his way into dominance, literally by punching people in the head to being the dominant tugboat guy, and then the railways, and then stock trading. You kind of laid the piping for capitalism.
Yeah. Okay.
So incredible read, and I didn't know anything about it. And so, yeah, I just finished that before.
Wow, okay. Yeah. It might be a good one to read. I might have a look at that.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of, if you want a 300-year perspective on business, then yeah.
Well, history repeats, they say, don't they? And I've got one last one, mate. If you had 3 guests to invite to a dinner party, which ones who would you invite? It might be quite a rare mix, I reckon, after some of the books you've been reading and some of the musicians and stuff. It might be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I think David Bowie, definitely, you know. He's like an absolute idol of mine. So I'd love to have dinner with Bowie if he was still around. Steve Jobs. Yeah. Because, like I said, kind of getting an iPhone really kind of flicked me into this, you know, career that I love.
Yep.
And the fact that, you know, Jobs got smartphones to where they are, and now almost anyone in the world has the world's information in their pocket, partly because of the fact that smartphones exist, right?
Yeah.
Which is an amazing leveler for any human being can now kind of learn, grow, communicate with this device. And so I think about that all the time still. So Bowie, Jobs, and maybe Satoshi.
Okay, right.
The mystery man, the Bitcoin inventor. Yeah, again, because that blows my mind. It's like some guy or woman or group invented this new financial system and never shown their face. And, So,
When did you start Bluethumb?
2012 is when it started.
Okay.
So, my brother and I wanted to do something online. And actually, before that, I was working tech, but before that, I'd quit work to be a musician for a couple of years.
Right.
And when we're tossing around ideas for what we wanted to build, I sort of was like, I'd love to build something in music, but SoundCloud had kind of solved that problem for emerging musicians. And we sort of one idea was like, well, you know, why not SoundCloud, but for artists, you know, let them kind of run a career and grow their practice and sell art directly. So that was kind of the genesis of it back then, and it's been a great 12 years. Obviously, you know, I love what I do.
Yeah.
And it's certainly, you know, it's not easy building any kind of, you know, new business or tech startup or whatever. But it's kind of stuck to that.
Yeah.
SoundCloud for art, really. It's an open platform. We've got 20,000 Australian artists on there now.
Brilliant.
And hundreds of thousands of kind of collectors. And I still, you know, love waking up every day and going to work. It doesn't feel like work still. So.
Fantastic. And let's start with, you know, before you started, what was going to be your music instrument of choice? Are you a guitarist, or you look like more of a guitarist or a vocalist? So what were you going to go with?
You can tell I don't have a good singing voice. I played bass and also sort of keyboard, and nice. I played in a bunch of bands, and it was a great few years in my 20s, kind of just doing that.
Yep.
I hit this point where I'm like, I'm not sure I'm good enough to get there.
Okay. Need a bit of luck.
Yeah. And it was around the time, actually, I was mid-20s, and I got my first iPhone, and I'm like, actually, I also love web. You know, I'd sort of done that in my teenage years, and I love technology, and I'm like, well, maybe I can do this.
Yep.
So I went back, maybe 26 or 27, studied computer science.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I switched into doing technology.
That would have changed a lot from what you studied to where we're at now.
Yeah,
It would have changed a little bit.
I got this degree called, it was Masters of Intelligent Web Systems, which is effectively AI or machine learning, but they didn't have the name machine learning back in 2011.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they did, but it wasn't a common term.
Yeah.
So yeah, and look, I actually wasn't a great developer, and I've never really been on the tools. I sort of went into becoming a UX designer. But yeah, geez, what I studied and what they're developing now is probably, I think it's slightly different.
So when that sort of idea come about, did you know at that point you wanted to build a marketplace? So talking about the SoundCloud, like that you thought, oh, we need to build a marketplace for something, and then you had a passion for the arts, obviously with music, but then obviously artists and their sort of creative side of that. Was that sort of how that come about, or were you literally, as you said, just trying to think of where's the gap in the market?
No, we liked marketplaces.
Yeah, okay.
You know, it just seemed like the better way to do things. Like it's disruptive. Like I've always had a chip on my shoulder about kind of rent-seeking middlemen, gatekeeping.
Yep.
Like those structures, you know, I've always wanted to blow up, right? And so we thought, look, you know, why not let artists sell to collectors? You know, if they can, you know, why does it have to have this kind of gatekeeper in the middle? Yeah. So we've always loved marketplaces. Like what you discover after you start building one and growing one is, you know, it's almost double as hard. You know, in e-commerce, if you have a branded product that's yours, you sort of you have to control the logistics, right, or the ops and the creation, but in a marketplace, you actually have two customers, right? You have your supply, which is artists, and your buyers. So you have to be able to kind of grow both, market to both, and grow them in lockstep. Yeah. Because you see marketplaces often go a bit wonky when one side is kind of too much, oversupplied, or under, you know, it doesn't serve as well. Yeah. So, you know, it is this balance, and it is, you know, you learn it's. Every business is hard, right?
Yeah, that's it.
But it is hard, and there's that chicken and egg of getting going. Yeah. And then there's that learning, how do you bring both sides, what works, and even once you learn, you know, you get to a size, you know, whatever equilibrium, and it's working well for both sides, you then will hit bumps, and like it's happened every year or two, you know. Yeah. So yeah, it's constant problem solving. Yeah. But yeah, it's I love it.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it, which is great. But yeah, as I said, before we started recording, I was saying the same thing. Like it's, you know, the marketplaces that I've had some experience in marketing with, it's just always like, it's just, as you say, doubly hard, because you've got to get both sides of the people to the website, and you know, marketing from B2B to B2C is obviously different. So marketplace, you essentially got to do both. Yeah. How do you go with crypto, and is that something that you accept on Bluethumb? Crypto, or is that something that you've been thinking about? You know, how do you sort of transact with crypto into the future and the blockchain?
So no, we don't accept crypto. I'm a kind of believer in crypto, and I've like held Bitcoin, you know, since 2015 or 16, nice. I reckon. And,
good price back then, mate.
Yeah. We have Bluethumb Digital, which is NFTs, but we caught the tail end of that boom, and it's been really, really slow.
Okay. It's
I don't know where
dropped off a little bit, hasn't it? The NFT stuff,
it's just It's not a focus. You know, I'm hoping in the future it'll kind of come back, or something will happen. So yeah, look, I think it's a miracle what was invented, you know, outside of a financial system, and it actually kind of works. Yeah. By this anonymous personal group, right? I think that's just incredible to me. Yeah. You know, who knows where it'll go. But no, but we don't accept it.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Mate, let's get on to sort of Bluethumb. Yeah. Obviously, sorry, did you say 11 years?
12,
12, sorry. I should listen better. Well, what was the first couple of years look like? I mean, it's tough for any founder. You co-founded with your brother, didn't you?
Yeah, three of us. My brother and another guy. Phil.
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah. So there's three co-founders. Yeah. Which sounds like fun, but you know, I'm sure you had your moments. Yeah. What were the early years like in Bluethumb, and what were some of those sort of? Do you recount some pivotal moments where it could have went either way, or how did you find the early days?
The early days were bloody hard, man. It was meager.
Just were you trying to convince?
Limping along.
Were you getting sort of pushback from artists or the industry because it hadn't sort of been done before? Or were people not believing in your idea? Was it lack of capital? Like what was the challenges?
I mean, no, artists were absolutely embraced it. So artists was the bright spot.
Give us a chance.
They were joining. They were telling other artists that was working. That was. Industry is funny. I called a couple of galleries, just as we were starting. I'm like, what do you think about selling online, marketplace model? And I remember one gallerist just belly laughing at the idea. Yeah.
Really?
And some were like, I just don't see it. How's anyone going to buy? Spend $1,000 sight unseen on the internet. No one will buy. Some people got angry, but we didn't get one. Yeah, you should try this from any art industry person I spoke with at all.
Fascinating.
Artists though were
of course
were sort of embraced it.
Yeah.
And then obviously the hard part is always getting buyers to know about you, getting buyers to trust you, and getting buyers to transact, right?
Yeah.
So, I said in marketplace you need to grow both sides.
Yeah.
For us, when you bring on an artist and you can kind of prove that you do what you say, you can sell an artwork, you get trust and you get that kind of word of mouth growth, and that has worked for us because we actually kind of do what we say we do and sell their art. That side has grown consistently.
Yeah.
The buyer side, you just got to work super hard at buyer acquisition.
Yeah.
And that's like all the e-com acquisition stuff that I'm sure that you talk about all the time.
Yeah.
SEO, pay-per-click, paid social, and then email, sort of those direct channels.
Yeah.
Just focus really, really hard on kind of best practice, pushing them really, really hard. And so that's kind of what we've done.
Yeah.
But those early days, you're starting from a very low base.
Yeah.
But my old man, he was kind of, he was an accountant then in business, and he sort of said, well, look, if you can double this year and double next year and double every year, at some point, you have a very big business.
Yeah.
It's like, even if you're going from selling $5,000 to $10,000 is worth of whatever in the year, you kind of extrapolate that and keep going and keep focusing on the stuff that improves it, and you will get to a big size. And it's sort of, he's always drilled that into Ed and I, and it's actually what's happened, right?
Yeah.
And those step change growth moments, they do happen, but much more rarely than you think. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
One was when a journalist, I think it was Max Mason, he wrote a little article about us.
Okay.
And this was, I was working at an app developer Outwear, and Ed was an accountant.
So you guys all had other jobs.
We all had other jobs. We were
early days,
putting our money and our time into this outside of work. It was a nightmare. And it got written up in The Age and the SMH.
In The Age? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And our sales tripled.
Yeah, wow.
Bang, tripled. And they didn't really drop down from there.
Okay.
We had the backlink, we had this kind of trust.
Nice.
We put it on the website. And the business was pretty much 3 times bigger.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, backlinking works,
That
PR works.
Yeah, PR, definitely.
So then we started fighting harder for that side of stuff. And then the other really, really big thing was we took some seed money from some e-commerce guys actually down the road, Lux Escapes.
Okay. Oh, yeah, nice.
So they invested in us in 2015.
Okay.
They put in like a seed investment, Jeremy and Adam, the founders of Luxury Escapes. And that was probably the most pivotal moment in those next kind of few years.
Fantastic.
Because suddenly marketplaces are just capital intensive to build. You need developers, you need to spend. It's just an expensive, hard journey.
Yep.
And having some money that wasn't ours meant we could kind of spend on growth.
Yeah.
And also those guys have been doing e-com for many years. They had these big e-com businesses. And so sort of suddenly we had this kind of sounding board of all the mistakes they'd made, all the stuff we weren't doing properly that was really obvious to them.
Yeah.
And that really, you can see the growth rate from that point up. It just kind of ticked up and up and up.
Nice. Okay. So did they become sort of mentors to you then? Did they sort of, with getting that sort of seed capital, like they were really invested into that business, obviously, as well, and really kind of take you under their wings and help them, because they've obviously grown massive businesses. And I think they've got a podcast, doesn't it? Adam, I think.
Yeah.
Have you been on that one yet?
No.
getting a few. Mate, you'll have to jump on that one.
Yeah, should.
Maybe this will be the stepping stone to that one. Adam will listen to this. But so you obviously that obviously was a pivotal moment for you guys to be able to get some serious, I guess people that have been there, done that, and to help. Yeah. What sort of things did they help with? Was it strategy? Was it sort of how to get, more and more people purchasing to the website? Was it operations, or, probably all of the above maybe?
Yeah, it was super execution.
Okay.
Like really, because they had a couple of businesses at the time. I don't know. They were in e-com with a few businesses, and they got straight into the kind of weeds on execution and strategy, and it was great. Sort of having someone or having kind of, they were the first kind of people who were a step ahead, who were really in there, kind of working with us. Yeah, and you realise that actually is where you get those, where you get the insights that you don't find reading blogs.
Yeah, that's right.
Or like even like on Twitter or whatever. Even on a podcast, people have to edit a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But if you speak to someone doing it, who's maybe a bit ahead of you in whatever business you are, but actually they're on the ground doing the day to day, you just get so much insight straight away, because they'll have tried a whole bunch of stuff.
Exactly.
10% will have worked to move the needle.
Yeah.
And they can say, well, look, I tried all this, it didn't work. You can try it. This is what's worked.
Yeah.
And those conversations, since we started working with Adam and Jeremy, those are the conversations that I do try and seek out.
Yeah.
So I make an effort to kind of talk to other founders and other kind of operators.
Yeah.
When I can, because you get the unvarnished kind of
warts and all,
the alpha,
100%. And I think and that's why I think we got a good listening audience here with this podcast as well, because we get founders that are just starting out. They don't get access to the likes of yourself, who spent 12 years making mistakes and executing and growing a business, and who you've had access to people before you as well. So it's all a bit of a chain, isn't it? And if you can learn a couple of things, so from a podcast episode or from a founder or whatever it is, it might just be that one thing, but it just might make you not make that mistake, or make a lot more, execute the right way and change your business. So
100%.
The early days, I just want to touch on that. So you mentioned trust is a big one, and it's something that I see a lot with e-com brands and even professional services businesses. Their websites lack a little bit of trust or something like that, but it also, how do you get trust? How do you get those Google reviews when you're just starting out or whatever that is? So how did you guys, how did you sort of embrace that trust component of, so you can actually buy art on our platform and we do what we say we're going to do? Like, how did you sort of build the trust?
Yeah, we were really focused on trust and trust signals online for those few years, because our audience is older too. Our average buying audience, the biggest spenders are 45 to 54.
Okay.
Yeah. And the next biggest cohort is the one above that, right?
Wow.
Yeah, big chunk buying on iPads, actually.
Okay. Yeah. Still on the tablets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Away.
Yeah.
So, and trust signals and trust is more important the older you get, the older your audience gets, right? In general, I think. So, we just tried to suck in as much third-party trust as we could.
Okay.
It's even really dumb stuff like making sure PayPal and the credit card things are obvious. And, pushing for reviews immediately. Like, as soon as we could get buyers, we pushed for reviews. We displayed them prominently.
Yeah.
We sucked them in from Google as well. Any PR we would get, we worked pretty hard at PR. Any PR we'd get, logos, links to that. What we really want is other people's trust on us. Yeah. Because, that problem was, are these guys a scam?
Yeah.
Why would I spend $1,000 on an artwork?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was huge.
Did you have any risk reversal? Like, was there any kind of the guaranteed, any sort of guarantees with that? Did you play around with those, or?
Yeah, that was a big change for us actually. About a year in, we added free returns.
Okay. Yep.
So we added free shipping pretty quick.
Yep.
But then it's that, we constantly were getting the feedback of, well, how do I know it's going to look good on my wall? It looks all right on my iPad.
Yeah.
So we go, okay, cool, let's just, and I was worried because our artists were going to get paid later, right?
Yeah, okay.
The 7-day free return window means you got to wait and hold that money in case the artwork comes back.
Yeah.
So we're worried about that, but ultimately we did it and it increased our conversion rate a lot.
Okay, yeah.
And as soon as you start selling more, it's good for artists. So
yeah.
So yeah, it's sometimes you do have that balance where, this is going to help buyers check out more, buy more, but it might impinge on the artists for whatever reason.
Short term, yeah.
Yeah, but ultimately you need to know, is this going to help artists sell more or not?
Yeah.
And so you do have to run these experiments and tests, and sometimes you get them wrong, right? And anyway, so yeah, that was a big one in the early days, free returns.
Yeah.
Changed conversion rate a lot.
What about one that you got wrong? Can you remember?
Yeah, well, recently we built into the whole kind of marketplace. There would be framing by default added on all the artworks.
Okay. Yep.
Because people, in general, if a painting's unframed, it looks better framed.
Yep.
We have a service where we kind of do third-party framing on the way through with shipping, so it kind of feels quite seamless.
Good
It
idea.
gets custom framed.
Yep.
And arrives, because it's a big hassle to get an artwork frame. You buy this 1.5 meter artwork and then you got to take it to the framers. And
yeah,
it's a nightmare.
That's what happened with me. So I bought the Louis Jova, and it turned up in the rolled up
tube
sort of thing,
Yeah.
in the tube, and then I had to go and find a framer,
Yeah.
and then she's like, "Oh, do you want all these?" I said, "I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not. It's
Yeah,
my first art thing I bought.
Yeah.
I don't just frame it so it looks good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting that you've included that, or yeah.
Yeah, so we built that into the site a few years ago, which is really popular. But then we're like, well, people sometimes miss it. So the biggest customer request is not returns. It's actually, I forgot to add framing. Can I get it framed?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
It's already on the way. So we're like, why don't we default that it has a frame?
Yeah.
And then people can remove it. And so we launched that, and artists didn't like it because immediately it sort of added a cost to their artwork.
Right.
And I've listed this at $700, but why is it showing it at $950?
Yeah.
So that it kind of it upset some artists, but also buyers. Suddenly everything was actually more expensive. So it sort of netted out to not being worth it. So we rolled that back. That was in, I don't know, June.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do that stuff all the time and get it wrong.
It's good to hear that, you know what I mean? Because I think you just look at a marketplace like Bluethumb and you think, they're nailing it, they're doing all this stuff. But, as founders, I guess you got to take that risk and you got to kind of go, let's try. Because if you don't try, you don't know. But it's interesting. You looked at an app called Order Editing. Have you come across them before?
No,
so
I don't know.
A young guy called Hamish Mackay. I don't know how you actually say it. But he created an app. I think it's only on Shopify, to be fair. But it gives you a 30-minute window for customers to change their order, or they might have put in the wrong address, or they might have wanted to order something else, and so there's like a 30-minute window for them to change it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the statistics off the top of my head, but it's reduced a lot of customer service tickets, requests, actually increased AOV as well a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say that. Yeah, I don't know. You're not on Shopify, are you?
Custom. No, we've had to. That's our problem. We're a custom stack, so we've built that.
Yeah.
Because PayPal, Express, and Apple Pay, constantly people have the wrong shipping address in there.
Yeah, really.
One tap, Apple Pay.
Yep.
I've ordered it to my work address. I've ordered. It's absolute. Yeah, huge amounts of wrong addresses because of those two easy checkout systems.
Interesting.
So we had to build that.
So you've custom built that.
Literally,
Yeah. Good on you.
Pretty much most of the stuff we build. And again, marketplace. You have to. All these amazing apps I'd love to just plug in, and none of them do.
yeah, 100%. Mate, if you were starting again from scratch, what would you do differently 12 years on?
I'd say, well, look, like I'd do everything the same because I've loved the journey to where we are. But if I was going again with something new, I think I'd spend more time, as a team, prioritizing what we're building and focusing on less. Okay. So choosing kind of one focus, one thrust of the next big feature, push, whatever it is, and prioritizing, like extreme prioritizing, is very brutal because you have so many ideas you want to do.
Yeah.
And I guess our biggest mistakes have not been what we've built, it's been trying to build too many things and going too slowly. And you don't find out that what you're building sucks because you take ages for too long.
Okay.
So what happens is, the world moves on, the team gets kind of loses momentum. So yeah, what I would do, and we do it now. Like we're really, really quite, we brutally prioritize, and that's what I would do better.
Yeah.
If I was starting again.
When you say that, you're brutal with your ideas. So you guys might have 10 ideas that you want to work on, and you're just a lot more harsher on kind of executing on just one.
You
one
force
at a time.
rank them.
Yeah.
And actually, rereading the jobs bio, he'd get the the leadership team together. I don't know, once a year. What are we going to build next year? And all the ideas go on the board. They force rank them 1 down to 30, and you drew a line under the top 3.
Okay.
And that's all you get.
Yeah,
Everything
right.
else, gone.
Just forget. Yeah.
See you later. You can try again in the next planning meeting. And it's the hardest thing to do when you've got a bunch of people who are really smart and passionate and all want to do, convince this thing's the best or that. But yeah, just force ranking and doing less, prioritizing, going quicker. That's what I do better.
Yeah. Where do we see Bluethumb into the future now? Obviously a mature business at 12 years. What does the next 12 look like? Or if that's probably too hard, what does the next 3 to 5 look like for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, we sort of in the shorter term, we've got sort of 2 big exciting things that we're working on right now. Number one is our sort of growth into the USA.
Fantastic.
So, we've actually had a lot of pull there from buyers buying through our .com.au and in AUD, and it's all been a weird experience, but they still have been buying.
Yeah.
So we've launched bluethumbart.com to the USA to service them better. And so that should be a big growth. It's the world's biggest art market.
Yeah,
it's the world's most competitive art market. But looking at how it's done over there, it still sucks. There's so much that can improve.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've launched there this year. We're growing there next year. The other exciting one is a sort of unannounced new initiative. So that's coming in before the end of the year.
Okay.
Been working on it for quite a while.
Yep.
But yeah, it's there's a ton of customer pull for it.
Right. Okay.
And
so customers are asking.
Yeah,
for
they
this.
have been for years.
Yeah.
And it should help artists sell a lot more art too. So that's I probably shouldn't drop it before we announce it.
Well, we're open to an exclusive here at the eCommerce Australia podcast, but okay. So it's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah. Coming out before the end of the year, the MVP.
Nice.
And that should when we'll launch that just within Australia. It's sort of an extension of what we're doing with our artists, helping them sell more art. So we've been working on that. So those 2 things are kind of really where the whole team is absolutely focused.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to hear. I mean, I'm intrigued now. You've got the tease right. You got the hook right. So looking forward to seeing what happens with that. So that sounds like it's enough to keep you busy. How do the artists? The artists market themselves, right? And then they send people to their own collections page on Bluethumb. Is that correct? Or if they want to, I guess. Yeah.
So artists, they can have their own social profiles and do their own marketing, but internally, we have the biggest collection of Australian art buyers anywhere. On Bluethumb, right? And so we've built a sort of a system for buyers for when they like artworks, or if they like a particular artist, there's a follow button.
Yep.
And what that does is it actually triggers new emails and probably soon SMS to collectors whenever an artist will upload a new work. If they follow that artist, they're going to get a notification that morning of of your followed. Here's the new art. And that really drives sales. That drives that one trigger email drives a chunk of our kind of retention sales.
Yep.
But it also really helps artists, right?
Yep.
So them pushing collectors to their profile and getting follows means that kind of there's this virtuous cycle whenever they do more on their profile, it's going to go out to the collectors who follow them.
Yeah. Okay.
So we do, there's kind of that internal marketing as well for artists.
Yeah. And one thing we haven't touched on is COVID, obviously. So we're in Victoria as we record this. One of the most locked down cities in the world, or the most locked down city in the world. Everyone's staring at their walls going, this looks pretty bare. Surely COVID must have been, I guess a good time to have spent, 10 years in the lead up to COVID to get your marketplace in a position where it could take advantage of people that wanting to, spend some cash on their house.
Yeah. No, it was fantastic for us in that regard. Yeah. Immediately. Artists
could create all day because we saw what they do anyway. But
And funnily enough, so sales went bananas and have done since. But also the amount of artists on us grew a huge amount.
Okay,
we're at 20,000 now. I actually can't remember where we were before COVID.
Yep,
might have close to doubled, I would say.
Wow. Okay,
maybe a bit less than that. But the amount of exhibiting artists, suddenly people, good artists who also have a job or a career and haven't been doing their practice, they got back into it. And so it wasn't just buyers, which was amazing for us, but the supply of amazing art really lifted on us as well. So it was it was a horrible time in Victoria, but a grand time for Bluethumb.
It's as you say, you build something long enough and you're there in the right place, right time to capitalise on an unfortunate pandemic for for everyone. How's it been since? Because I know one of the challenges, and I see it in my clients as well, that you're comparing year-on-year growth, and and it's just so hard to hit those numbers again. That whilst we were in lockdown and COVID, and then out of that, how do you judge whether you've had a successful year or not? Do you just kind of look at other metrics such as profit and sales and how many people you got on the platform, as opposed to trying to compare to COVID years previously?
Post-COVID, it was really hard to grow.
Yeah.
Last year. But if you take, like I said, 12 years, if you take a kind of a very long kind of eagle view of the year-on-year growth, you could draw a line. We're still growing on a slightly stronger trajectory than we have been throughout, but there's this bigger bump in COVID. This sort of the cost of living pressure is definitely makes selling art in general hard, and artists are feeling it with kind of their direct sales and everything else. People are just getting squeezed, right? That said, we've been growing this year, not quite as fast as kind of obviously in COVID, but just growing is a win in a market like this. For sure. And the USA is showing good growth as well. So we kind of think that next year that should be good for us.
Nice.
But it's certainly a really tough market to find new buyers. And the other thing that I'm sure has come up a ton on this podcast and when you talk to e-commerce people, but I was looking at a Criteo report, a general state of marketing online report like last week, and the actual inflation on Instagram year on year, the cost per 1,000 views on Instagram is up 23%.
Really?
These guys are inflating their eyeball costs, and Google search is up 12% year on year. And you're just inflating because you can. Well, good for them, but it just squeezes any e-commerce business, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So luckily our biggest and best channel is SEO, and we've always taken it super seriously. And our advantage in what we've done is that we are a kind of technology company first. In art, we're not actually art people; we're technology people. And so having good SEO and improving it constantly has actually been a kind of an advantage for us.
Oh, nice, man. That's a great segue. Music to my ears as an e-commerce SEO guy myself. Do you use do you have that team internally, or have you used external agencies with success? Your marketing mix, you've mentioned PR a couple of times as well. So interesting to kind of get your thoughts on what you've found in terms of growing your business for 12 years, but what's working for you in this current environment as well.
Yeah, well, SEO is always a moving feast, right?
Yeah.
And you need to work on it. You need to work on it consistently.
Yeah.
So we have our kind of our product team internally who are constantly working on SEO.
Yep.
And we have an outside SEO, actually just an advisor, like a one man band who's a marketplace guy who's good.
Nice.
So he kind of just works with the team and working out the on-page stuff.
What you need to do, strategy, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and like a marketplace, it's a big advantage for SEO because you have so many product pages and so many collections and landing pages, right? So that's great, as opposed to like ecom. You've just got this limited amount of of kind of content. We have 500,000 SKUs, and it's great.
Visitors on both sides as well. So a lot of traffic, a lot of trusted traffic, and authority to the website as well.
And backlinking as well.
Yeah, of course.
Artists backlink to us, and kind of it's there's just a bunch of advantages. I complained about marketplaces. It's actually beautiful for SEO, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so that's our most important channel, and we take it seriously.
Yep. It's good to hear. Yeah.
I'm a little worried about search and AI. Like I've kind of switched to mainly using ChatGPT as my day-to-day answer driver these days.
Quicker, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's better. It's sort of. It goes more in depth. So
have you got to play for that? Obviously there's going to be a fair bit of SEO that translate into that as well, but there is some more nuance around that, and how voice search and ChatGPT, and how you can kind of set yourself up for success with that kind of optimization as well. So are you guys putting some thought into that sort of AI piece?
Panic, yeah.
Nice.
Thinking about it, and I'm thinking, what the hell do we do?
How do we do it? Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, look, it's like that world is changing so quickly. So who knows?
What about influencer marketing? A lot of your artists would be influencers. They have their own following, and have you sort of done much in that influencer space? Yeah.
We a few years ago we started building tools for artists.
Yep.
So when they'd upload a new artwork or sell something, we'd auto generate kind of a share tile, with their artwork I've just sold, and the banner and our brand, and that's been a real amazing kind of acquisition engine, that side of, especially automating it.
Yeah, brilliant.
So yeah, that was our sort of first foray into it. We tried kind of more of the paid influencer stuff on the collector side.
Yep.
And we could never get it to work for the effort.
Okay.
Until recently.
Okay.
This year, it started to work quite well. Actually, so we've launched an art podcast as well.
Nice.
It's called The Art in My Home.
Yep.
And I guess the premise of that was, I'm from the technology side of things. I'm not really an art guy. I love the arts, but I've always felt a little bit, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't have an art history degree, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it turns out most of our collectors are in that boat too. We survey our collectors, and 89% of them said, I'm not an art collector. And they've bought like 2 or more paintings on us.
Right, okay,
you are an art collector.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh shit, I think everyone feels this.
Yeah.
Apart from that top 11%. So we started a podcast where me and Amy, who's in our trade team, we interview interesting sort of people who might have a presence online or have done something interesting, who aren't known as art collectors, to talk about the art they collect.
Brilliant.
So that's been great. And so we actually cut. We've got like 30 episodes in so far, and we're about to start season 2. And we started cutting a few of those snippets into ads.
Yep.
And the first 2 ads we ran in August got a ROAS of like 48 and 49.
Wow.
On Facebook,
really?
On Meta, yeah.
Were these quite raw ads, or were they polished podcast?
It's just a snippet of someone talking about art, or how they collect stuff, and then it's Bluethumb art for everyone.
Fantastic.
Is this monstrous return.
Yeah, that's it.
And so maybe that's the thing. So yeah, we've started doing more of that, and now we actually do have some influencers as well that we will give dart and they can talk about it, with their UGC, and then we run that as ads, and that's been working really well.
Nice one.
Just the last few months though.
Yeah, fantastic.
Taken 12 years.
Yeah. Well, it's all the information's right here on the eCommerce Australia podcast, mate. Where it's good to have that sort of real time feedback for our listening audience to be able to sort of look at something like that themselves if they've been thinking about that. Conscious of time, I've got two more questions for you. Just to sort of expand on that. Are you on TikTok at the moment? What's the TikTok strategy? Have you guys got one? Are you thinking about it, or what are you doing on that?
Yeah, we're on it.
Yep.
And yeah, we're experimenting.
Having a bit
content.
of fun with it.
Yeah. You can see my head on there, and
nice.
Yeah. The content that has been working better on that has been kind of behind the scenes of the team.
Yep.
So,
perfect.
It just literally us. We might be talking about some art that we want to buy or an artist we like, whatever that in the office behind the scenes content is the raw stuff. That's the stuff that's been getting the eyeballs.
Nice.
But like I said, we have this older buying audience, and TikTok is younger, and it'll overlap. Just sort of, it's probably a slower burn for us as opposed to some of the other brands, I'm sure.
Yeah, interesting. Last one, more of a general question, but what's the best business advice you've ever received, or I'm sure you get asked for advice as well. Maybe what's the best you've ever received, and then what's some business advice you generally give? It's quite a broad question, but for founders and e-commerce experts listening to this.
My answer would vary depending on the year and where the business is at.
It's a bit of a broad question.
But I guess I'm sort of a product guy, so I've always put user experience and the best product as the ultimate number one shining star. This is what we've got to build the best user experience, and everything will fall into place, right? Yep. And to a point, I think that is super important. But also, you're running a business, and I look at a spreadsheet, my eyes glaze over, and I just even a contract, bloody hell, haven't I already read this?
Yeah.
But my old man, who was an accountant I mentioned before, his mantra in life was happiness is positive cash flow.
Sure. Yeah.
So, to balance my only thinking the best product wins and, what's the next feature, making sure you're really aware of that bottom line and how the health of the business is going, and all the inputs that lead to, how much how much you're generating, is probably up there with the best advice that I need to keep reminding myself of. Is number one rule is don't run out of money, don't die. Happiness is positive cash flow. So that's probably up there with the best advice.
Nice. I like that.
Other than that, it's user experience is everything.
Experience everything. Try a few things. I guess from the takeaways from the podcast for me too, or just around trying to focus on one or two clear things that you can improve, rather than I found that really fascinating, that you had a lot of ideas, or between the three we had a lot of ideas, and it actually made you slower to implement all three, and all the ideas, just focus on one or two.
And you give yourself less opportunity to really test them properly if you go too slow. You won't put enough money behind it, you won't measure it well enough, you've got too many other things there to really understand what it's done. It's better to and apps what focusing means is you can go quicker, and really that's what the ultimate goal is to learn quicker, have a shorter cycle, and it fails quicker, or hopefully it wins. So that is kind of ultimately what we're trying to do better.
Brilliant. Mate, loved having you on the podcast. Looking forward to following you guys with the US expansion. You've got me intrigued as to what the next kind of announcement will be with Bluethumb in terms of what's coming next before the end of the year. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you, and appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your insights on eCommerce Australia. Yeah,
thanks so much for having me, and great to talk to a fellow Bluethumb buyer.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, mate.